Spring is synonymous with renewal. Does this mean that it can only happen in spring? No, of course not. However, I do believe that whether we realize it or not, in the spring, we are most expectant of it. We're most open to it. Perhaps it is because in the spring, we are surrounded by renewal. And we can see it happening right before our eyes. The hard or frozen ground softens, and the tulips and daffodils push upward toward the light through the soil. And they burst through the ground in all the colors of the rainbow. The brown grass turns green overnight. The trees suddenly burst into tiny green buds. The sun rises earlier. The birds greet the morning with joyful chatter and song, announcing to the world that spring has sprung. And the frogs in the evening serenade us with their chorus, often lulling us to sleep at night. In the north, anticipation of spring begins with the first few warm days in March, when the sun seems to appear for the first time in months. Even though the temperature will still fluctuate, we know now that it will soon stay. It is obvious that what renewal means in nature. Beginning again, a new cycle or circle of life. Everything is new, fresh, exciting, alive. We too experience renewal. We renew our bodies. With more favorable weather, more people get outside, walking, biking, golfing, and visiting with our neighbors, doing yard work, raking away old debris such as leaves, making the way for the grass to breathe and grow. We'll wash our cars, the siding on our house, our eaves, our driveways, giving everything a feeling of newness, a renewal. There are also spring rituals that many people follow, and I would like to use one of them as an analogy for our innermost renewal. Spring cleaning, specifically my mother's spring cleaning. Every spring, my mother would start her spring cleaning. This was an enormous task, which was composed of many different elements. She would start by taking all of the winter coats, boots, scarves, mittens, and toques from the upstairs closet by the door and take them downstairs to the storage closet. And then from the storage closet, she would bring up the spring coats, the rubber boots, and umbrellas. She also did this with everyone's wardrobe. Away goes the turtlenecks and long johns, and out comes the shorts and short sleeve shirts. A change of season requires a change of gear. Are we still wearing our proverbial winter coats? What do winter coats do for us? They protect us from the cold. They insulate us so that we don't feel the effects of the cold. The cold could be past hurts. It could also be fear. Fear of letting others in. Fear of failing. Fear of succeeding. Fear of giving it whatever it is for you, another try. There are times when we really need that coat. But if we were to wear it in the heat of the summer, especially in Texas, it would actually suffocate us. What if instead we put on a spring coat, a lighter coat? Allow the new into our lives, our minds. Give it another try. This is a new season, a new environment, new people, or even changed people, new dreams or renewed dreams. The next thing my mother would do is clean out every closet in the house. My mother was a very clean person. It's not like she was going to find mounds of dirt or ancient items that had been eternally lost in those closets. But there was still renewal needed. Of course, there would be the odd spider web to clean out or a few dead bugs, but mostly it was a renewing of space, an assessment of what might no longer be needed. She would go through each item and decide what no longer fits: old sizes, old styles, old preferences, and of course, excess baggage. What is in our internal closets? The closets of our minds and hearts. What are the spider webs and dead bugs? Perhaps a recurring thought that plays over and over again in your mind and serves no good purpose. A deep hurt, a broken heart, a loved one who left, a grave disappointment. And what about the things that no longer fit? These don't even have to be negative things. It could be as simple as a hobby you once enjoyed and now want to try something new. Maybe you once enjoyed painting, but have always wondered what it would be like to sculpt. Perhaps the what no longer fits are acquaintances. People change, their interests change, what we have in common changes. They move away. But we hang on out of loyalty, love, or familiarity. What about old styles, old sizes, and preferences? I remember very clearly a time when my brother, who is 10 years older than I am, said to me, "You know, Sherry, every decade of your life, there are great changes." At the time, I was in my 30s and I was inviting him to a party. And he was in the process, being 10 years older, of moving out of his wanting to go to parties stages. And I believe he was trying to explain to me so that I wouldn't be offended, which I was not. But I never forgot those words. Mindset changes, values change. We mature as people and as Christians. Our understanding deepens, and this shapes our attitudes towards ourselves and others. We hopefully and likely become more patient and less judgmental. We move toward the Christ consciousness and away from the world consciousness. These things no longer serve us. They have become spider webs. We sweep them out, but sometimes allow them to rebuild by giving them attention. If instead When we begin to see them rebuild, what if we replace them, these things that no longer fit, with fresh, new things, new thoughts, new acquaintances, new experiences? And finally, the excess baggage of the closets of our mind and heart. Anything in your heart which keeps you from being the person you want to be, that keeps you living in the past, keeps you from loving and understanding. Another part of spring cleaning would be to wash every window in the house, inside and out, vinegar and water. And for those of you not old enough to know this, newspaper, not paper towels. And while this was happening, the windows were open and they were letting in fresh spring air with the sounds and scents of the season. The eyes are often called the windows of the soul. If we were to clean the windows of our soul, what would that look like? I think it would allow us to see things and people more clearly. John 8:15 says, "You judge by human standards. I pass judgment on no one." What if we could truly look at another person and see the divinity within them? And that includes looking in the mirror. What renewal would that bring? I don't know about you, but this sounds a little daunting to me. Don't get me wrong, I try, but I forget. I slip backwards, and sometimes you could stay there. But instead, I try again. I want to see the divinity in everyone. It is here that Philippians 3:13 and 14 encourages me. But this one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind, and reaching forth unto those things which are before, I press toward the mark for the prize of the high calling of God in Christ Jesus. Press toward the mark. I'm not actually expected to just be there. Just keep moving, keep trying again, keep pressing toward the mark of this high calling. After this, my mother would do an entire deep cleaning of the house. Now, this meant every room, every corner, all the baseboards, doors, cupboards. She washed curtains, blankets, carpets. All of the rugs would be taken outside and have the dirt beaten out of them. When I think of giving my mind and heart a deep cleaning, I think not of the hurts and disappointments. I think of the things I've hidden away, the things that I once found too painful to look at, choices that I made that hurt the people I loved, things that were traumatic in my life, grief that I just couldn't deal with at the time. These may be things that we need help with dealing with. But we can start by becoming aware that these things are taking up valuable space in our lives, in our minds, and in our hearts. There, in the corner, lies grief, the corner of my heart, waiting to be exchanged for the knowledge that I once loved so deeply. There, in the back of your mind, lies betrayal. Whether you be the one betrayed or the one who betrayed another doesn't even matter, although one also comes with guilt and shame. This too is waiting, waiting for your forgiveness. You already have God's forgiveness. In Ephesians 4:32, he says, "Be kind and compassionate to one another." And I'm going to add in here, and yourself, forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Forgive yourself. After this, my mother would go through and touch up the paint in the house, anywhere there'd been a scratch or a mark, or even repaint entire rooms. A complete renewal of the home. Once we have done the deep cleaning, it's time for sprucing up. Let's paint. To paint, to bring new life. If we are to bring new life to our mind and to our hearts, then that means to bring in new thoughts, new experiences, new friendships. In Philippians 4:8, finally, brothers and sisters, what is true, what is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, if anything is excellent or praiseworthy, think about such things. Think about what brings you joy and happiness. I had a 104-year-old aunt who told me once, we get to choose what part we think of. We were having a discussion at the time about, people and the ones that might tick us off sometimes, and the ones that we loved anyway. They were often the same people. And she said, we get to choose which of those thoughts we think about that person, about our life, about the world. When she was finished inside, she would go outside. Outside was definitely one of her happy places. She loved the garden. This involved turning over the soil of the last year and aerating it, digging up the perennials and separating them to share with others or to expand her gardens. First, she dug, and that in turn aerated the soil. Interestingly, this brings up thoughts of digging up old dreams and aerating them, breathing new life into them, believing that God can and will breathe new life into them with you. If God once put a dream in your heart, it did not die. Often, without noticing, we allow the mechanics of life to erode the very things that light us up. Of course, there can be a large helping of what we call reality at this point. We have to go to work to pay for our life, to put food on the table. The kids have to go to school. The chores that renew our home have to be done. And with each task, we can unknowingly relinquish ourselves to the rhythm of this life. But those dreams didn't actually die. They simply lay dormant, awaiting renewal. The dream to be a writer, a speaker, achieve some level of education or professional certification. A dream to build a home, to own a home, to have a home. to build a charity, to be married, have children, to send those children to college, to travel, to be financially free. There literally are no limits here, and everyone will have a different dream than someone else that's just perfect for them. Once my mother had dug up and aerated the soil, she would then separate the perennials. She would either share them with others, often other members of the family and her friends, or she used them to expand new gardens that she had made. As I said, she loved gardening. Please realize that when you follow your God-given dreams, not only are you expanding your own life, your own gardens, but you are also sharing vital lessons with others. You are an example of fortitude, resilience, and determination. But perhaps most importantly, hope. Everyone needs renewed hope. They need to believe that it can be done. Then they can be brave enough to believe that if God did it for you, He'll do it for them. When we renew our own hope, we cannot help but be the light that is shining out on the world, showing others that they can also renew theirs. Then my mother would plant, planting seeds and/or plants that she had started a month beforehand, adding nutrients, water, and love. She would plant food for sustenance and flowers for beauty. Once we have worked up the soil of our minds and hearts, what are we planting there? There are endless answers to this question. The answers can be very specific to each of us. However, there are three overarching things that can be planted that will spring up in a myriad of ways: faith, hope, and love. I have talked about the importance of renewed hope and how it spreads like sunshine. Equally important, we must truly renew our faith. This can be interpreted as our belief system. But the bigger picture is to renew our faith as defined in Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. When we plant seeds, we don't return 2 days later and dig them up to see if they're growing. We have faith. Faith that the seeds are germinating, growing roots, beginning to push through the ground. Faith that what we planted will grow. The assurance about what we do not see. For everything that we start grows first in the darkness before it comes to light, to life, before we can see it. And lastly, we add nutrients. This is us working together with God as co-creators of our experience. He brings the sun and the rain, and He simply is love. We bring water as well, gathering it in wells or water containers coming off the roof, and taking it to the plants. And we also bring love. Love for God, love for one another, love for ourselves, love for the process that each of us will go through, love for what was, which gives us the ability to let it go, love for what is, which allows us to accept and appreciate where we are now, and love for what will be, which gives us the faith in what is to come. 1 Corinthians 13:13. And now these three remain: faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Whatever you may take away this morning, and however you will apply it, do it with love, and you do it with God. Thank you.